So first, a bit of news. President Zelensky, who was in Northern Europe and Finland today, said that we did not attack Putin. We leave that to the tribunal. And Ukrainian officials have suggested that this was a false flag operation, that the Russians did this themselves in order to justify some sort of retaliation, to escalate the conflict even further, perhaps to bring the fighting to Kyiv, to bring it to the presidential palace in Kyiv. Asked why Putin would want to do this or why Russia would want to do this kind of thing, Zelensky responded, Putin needs to motivate his people. He has no victories. So that's the official explanation from the president of Ukraine. Now, the videos are very interesting. So particularly this video you're looking at right now that claims to show the actual impact strike when this small drone, a hobbyist-style drone, is coming close to the dome in the Kremlin, and then, according to a statement from the Kremlin, was blown up by electronic defenses, not causing any significant damage, clearly not hurting or killing Putin, because Putin was not even in Moscow at the time, according also to the Kremlin. Now, you asked about the videos, and most videos, when they come out online, and our social media verification team here in London has been pouring through all these videos for the last several hours. Generally, what happens is there is a video that comes out, and then they spread quickly across the internet as people share it, repost it, and they go nuclear, or they go viral. And that is often when videos are doctored or changed in some way. What happened in this case is there was this first video at 2:37 Moscow time, and it showed the aftermath of the attack. And I see you've got a graphic. So this first video came out, and it showed a little bit of smoke. It was apparently taken from a building called the Embankment House, which is not very far from the Kremlin. And then things went quiet. A 12-hour gap elapsed when there were no videos. This initial video did not get a lot of traction. And then right around 3 o'clock, several videos started emerging, showing the alleged aftermath and also showing the impact at the time. And as these new videos came out in an apparent coordinated way, that is when the statements came out from the Kremlin saying that Kyiv was responsible, that this was an attempted assassination of Vladimir Putin. So it was not an organic spread across the internet. Instead, we saw a video emerge, then silence, and then other videos put out on social media, which were then used to justify these statements put out by the Kremlin. Also, something interesting in the video you're playing again right now, if you look, if you go back to that first one, the clearest one of the strike itself, you can see two people climbing up the scaffolding of the dome. Now, what they were doing at 2:30 in the morning, climbing up that scaffold, is unclear. And also, you see they do react in a way which suggests that something may have happened. It could be doctored. We still don't know. But you do see what looks like two people climbing up that scaffolding reacting in a way. And also, if you look on the other side of the screen, and once you see it, you can sort of never unsee it. It seems that this video was taken by someone who was filming a security camera, because there's a reflection off of this. And on the opposite side of the screen, you can see what looks like cabinets, someone taking the video who comes in and out of screen. So the video itself is quite clear, but then you can see someone filming the screen with their cameras themselves. So it seems that it was more of a release of videos than an organic spread across the internet.
Wow. Richard Engel, that is a lot of information. Admiral Stavridis, fortunately, is with me here to unpack it, but it does seem to at least create the possibility of doctored videos. The timeline is suspicious, to say nothing of the situation. The bottom line is that it would be so provocative, and it could justify a major retaliation. We've seen escalating attacks in the last couple of days. And Ukraine has been told over and over again by the U.S. and by NATO, more importantly, not to cross that border line. Not that they haven't in the past, but
yeah. Let's start with the fact that Putin's been lying now for 15 months. Basically, everything coming out of the Kremlin has been a lie, from, oh, we're not going to invade, these are just exercises, to there are Nazis in Kyiv, the war criminal behavior. It's a context of lying. So I think that's where you begin. Secondly, I think as you look at these videos, it does appear to be a kind of a coordinated. I feel like we're back in the JFK assassination, analyzing Zapruder video frame by frame. What it smacks of to me, Andrea, is Vietnam and the Gulf of Tonkin incident, which the United States used to escalate the conflict. Lyndon Johnson did, quite famously. So my feel here at this minute, recognizing we don't know everything, we'll learn more in time. U.S. intel is pulling this apart. But as I sit here right now, I think false flag, and I think it'll be followed by a pretty strong level of military strikes from Moscow.
And, Richard, there have been in the past incidents by Ukrainian supporters inside Russia, one which was an assassination against Olena, a very prominent woman connected to a very strong supporter of the Kremlin, right? So they have had operatives inside Russia. They have not done anything that we know of in the past as aggressive as a drone attack.
So they've come out the Ukrainians have come out very strongly and said that they were not responsible for this. They have also come out and said that they only conduct operations inside Ukrainian territory. Well, that's not exactly true. There have been some cross-border incidents. There was the attack on the bridge in Crimea. That's much more complicated because that is, according to Ukrainians, according to the United States, according to most countries around the world, occupied Ukrainian territory that was illegally annexed by Russia. But even in that attack, the bridge attack linking mainland Russia to occupied Crimea, the Ukrainians denied it with a bit of a wink and a nod. They said, we weren't responsible, but whoever did carried it out with a great deal of professionalism. In this case, they're coming out quite emphatically and saying, this wasn't us, we didn't do it, it would be counterproductive, it would hurt our relations, and it would allow Russia to escalate this conflict in a radical way. And going back to Admiral Stavridis' point, some opposition media operating outside of Russia report that some long-range bombers are being mobilized for a potential retaliation against Kyiv. No verification on that, single-sourced, unnamed, but there is that report out there.
And, of course, a very critical time to both of you when President Xi has just called Zelensky and is sending a high-level envoy to Ukraine. And there was some hope that the one positive thing, even though he's such a Putin person, very close to Putin, that maybe he would have some influence and could resolve this gridlock to China's advantage diplomatically. Joining us now is former U.S. Ambassador to Russia, Michael McFaul. Michael, it's the fog of war, so we shouldn't reach any conclusions at all, and none of us will. But there have been false flags in the past.
There have, and you're right. We don't know what this is, and I want to be careful. I don't know if it's a false flag or not. We may never know, by the way. But what I do know, it was not an assassination attempt on Vladimir Putin. I think we need to be crystal clear about that. This drone did not have that military capacity to blow up anything. And everybody needs to remember, Vladimir Putin does not live in the Kremlin. Like our president lives at the White House, he lives about an hour outside of town. This was at 3 a.m. So whoever was doing this was being extra careful to not threaten the life of Vladimir Putin.
And